Let me ask you a question. When you're about to do something great with your life, when you are about to embark in a life choice that is going to improve your life, do you actually have all these funny thoughts that goes into your head like, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I don't have enough money, this is not going to work anyways, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's my mother's fault, it's my culture's fault. There's always a reason why you need to put it off, and you're going to say to yourself, I can do this tomorrow. What if your thoughts are actually lying to you? What if whenever you want to embark in a decision that's going to make your life better, because it is actually an uncomfortable thing to do, and you are so used to the familiar that's actually one of the reasons why you constantly have all these thoughts or justifications of why you can't do it or why you shouldn't do it now, and you want to put it off and procrastinate and say, I can do it tomorrow. Hi, my name is Jessica, and in this video we're going to be talking about why your thoughts are actually lying to you and why you shouldn't take them so seriously, and how you can actually take that first step to making that change and shift in your life today. So very often, as I'm sure you would have experienced, we will often have, thoughts that come up in our heads by itself. It's almost like as though it's got your mind, or there's something inside of you that's got a mind of its own, and you will have these thoughts that comes up in spite of yourself. Have you experienced something where you all of a sudden you feel like you feel a sullen mood coming over you, and it's like in spite of things that are happening around you, and sometimes you just don't recognize yourself because all of a sudden you feel this funny mood that comes over you. And this can happen whether you're a man or a woman, and I'm not even talking about PMS. So the thing here is this: sometimes we are so used to behaving in a certain way, we're so used to thinking in a certain way, in that we become so used to a similar thought pattern that causes you to behave in a specific way. And we wonder why our lives don't change. If we are to think the same way, and if we are to behave in the same way, if we are to take the same actions each and every day over and over and over and over again, and we're telling ourselves, oh, I really want my life to change, how do you expect your life to change if something inside of you, which is the root cause of the external situations of your life, doesn't actually change? A very powerful saying by Joy Dispenza is that to meditate is to become familiar with. And the act of actually observing these thoughts, what he calls these thoughts are the programs that runs our life. So for example, if you're constantly thinking about, I don't have time, I don't have enough money, it's his fault, therefore I cannot, for example, meditate, or I cannot make that healthy choice in my life because it's my mother's fault, because it's my genetics fault. The act of actually observing these programs that are running your life and understanding them to be as that, understanding that these programs are not really who you are, they're just thoughts in your head that are influencing you to behave in a certain way each and every single day, that are causing you to make choices that are not exactly the best choices for you. When you become familiar, to meditate means to become familiar with, in his words, when you become familiar with these thoughts, the more aware and conscious you are that you are thinking in this way, that you are feeling this way, that you're behaving in this way, the more aware you are of these programmings, the faster you are able and the quicker you are able to overcome these programs and to become bigger than these thoughts that are actually running your life. So when I say, when your thoughts are actually lying to you, they are, because the act of actually observing your thoughts, to observe them without any judgment, is to take yourself out from identifying with those thoughts and feelings. And when you begin to take a step out and start observing them rather than being those thoughts and feeling those feelings that the thoughts are actually causing, you begin to realize that you are actually not your thoughts, you are actually not your feelings, but you can almost identify and become a witnessing observer of your inner world. And that in itself is actually one of the most powerful way of transformation, of change. A lot of us are so used to taking action, to making changes in our life, and that is not wrong at all. And I think with every change that happens in our lives, with every shift, we also need to take action physically. We also have to take, actual steps to making that change. However, a lot of the real transformation that happens have to happen internally first, because our thoughts and our feelings becomes our state of being, if you like. What we feel and what we think is what we are. And in the law of attraction world, you attract what you are. There's a theory that says that, or even in quantum physics, there's a theory that says that, there's such a thing called the observer effect, where just the act of observing something impacts the outcome of the experiment. So, what if our thoughts and how we observe things in our own reality and world has an impact with what happens? Just what if? We talk so much about wanting change in our external world. Maybe something's going so wrong in our lives that we would love to see a different outcome too. What if we are the main protagonist in the situation? Sure, somebody else could be at fault here, but what if, just what if, we are the protagonist? We are the same factor in every situation, good or bad, that happens to us in our life. Whatever it is, we are the only constant. So by me saying that your thoughts are lying to you and you're not your thoughts does not mean that we don't take responsibility for what shows up in our lives. Because by taking responsibility and owning that, okay, maybe I do have a part to play with whatever situation that's happening to us in our lives, by taking responsibility for that is the only one way, not the only one way, but one of the ways to start making a shift in that particular situation. And then the second thing that we must do is to really start looking internally and seeing what is it inside ourselves that could be causing the situation. We want to change. And if we're going to be thinking and feeling the same way and responding and reacting in the same way over and over and over again, how can we expect the change and the shift that we want? And therefore it goes back to the act of observing. I don't know if you're somebody who's into meditation. Personally, I'm big on it. And if you are in touch with Joy Dispenza, and I will really, really recommend you to have a look at his materials, where he really encourages us to take time out every single day and to meditate. And the reason for that is because of this. He wants to get us to a state of being able to observe our programmings, or to become really aware of what is happening to us internally. Because by meditating, and that's why it's very difficult for a lot of people, because when you start to meditate and go into the silence and to sit with yourself, you begin to feel funny. Your body, it's almost like as though your body is its own animal, and it tries to react against it. It's trying to rebel against it. It's like it's so used to doing things at a certain time and like, for example, the minute you want to sit down, and if you are an experienced meditator, I'm sure you know this, the minute you want to sit down, your body starts to itch, feel itchy, or your body starts to ache, and you feel like maybe I want to have a cup of coffee, and you feel like, I've got to reply that message, right? And it's the same thing, that when we want to embark in something new, we come up with all these different excuses and justifications as to why we can't do it now. Our body is so used to being in the comfort zone. It's so used to being in the familiar that the minute we do something that is not familiar to us, our body is like a programming. It begins to find different ways. It's not even like something that you consciously think about, but your body begins to just like rebel up against itself. And so this is where we go to the point where we think that we are the mind and we think we are in control. But the truth cannot be further than that, because we have actually programmed our body to be the one in control, where we behave and respond and react in ways that are in spite of what we would like to behave, think, and feel. The body has become the mind. It's like an animal by itself. And the only way to break this conditioning and this programming is to begin to allow ourselves to observe what is happening in our world, observe what is happening in our minds, and to even maybe discipline the body a little bit by taking some time to sit by yourself in the quiet and see what happens to that. There's a reason why a lot of people are actually not comfortable with meditation, because their bodies are just not used to it. And when I learned, as I go deeper into Joyce Dispenza's teaching, I began to realize that, or that's what he said anyway, that when your body begins to rebel against you, and when you're sitting down in meditation, you begin to feel all these impatience, this annoyance, this ache, this, you feel like you need to shift all the time. You're actually doing the right thing. When you start to feel all these intense feelings, you're actually doing the right thing. And it's all very interesting. So I really highly recommend you to have a look at Joyce Dispenza. But for the purpose of this video, to start off with something really simple, what I encourage you to do to start moving ourselves out from that conditioning, out from that box, that jail that we put for ourselves through our thoughts, because we believe in our thoughts. We do what is comfortable and familiar to us. And so when the mind says to us, or says to you, oh, I can put this off, let me do that in an hour, or I don't actually have time, I don't want to make time, or I really want that chocolate muffin or something, consider that the one way to break out from this jail or this programming is to stop taking those thoughts seriously. It's not real. And that's why when all these mystics, the one thing that they say all the time is how your life is not real, or like it's just a construct. This is where the truth is. It is a construct of our own paradigm, of what we think is true, what we think is possible, and what we think we're worthy of. So let's stop identifying ourselves with our feelings. Maybe today we might be feeling sad. Maybe today we might be feeling angry. Maybe today we might be feeling betrayed. Sure, that's okay. We can feel that way for a little while. But at some point, if we want to move above and beyond all these states of beings, all these feelings and emotions that are pulling us down, we need to stop taking them seriously and sort of, okay, like see it as a little bit of a child inside of you. Like, okay, I know I feel this way. But start to sort of stop identifying with it. Because the longer you stay in that zone and you keep entertaining these thoughts over and over, these thoughts and feelings over and over again. So the thoughts create a certain kind of feeling and emotion, and the feeling and emotion sort of reaffirm what you're thinking is real, and the loop goes on over and over and over and over again until it becomes a habit, until your mind doesn't have to think about it anymore, and your body becomes it. And therefore you identify yourself as an unhappy person, as an angry person, as a sad person that you need to fix, as a person who has been betrayed, even though what has happened to you was literally 3 years ago. And that's when you become somebody that you're actually not. That's when we actually start to construct our own life and reality because of how we perceive things, because of what we think. Do you see how that sort of loop back against itself, like around itself. So please rewind this if you just need to hear this again. But we can entertain a feeling and allow it to be without judging it. But we have to be very mindful that there comes a time where we need to step out of that zone and see that feeling for what it is, learn the lessons from it, but also know that we can make the choice to not become that feeling, so that we don't become it, so that it doesn't take hold over us, so that our body doesn't become that programming. Our body don't make that to become like a habit. So for example, if I were to put you in a car and make you drive that 10, 15, 20 times, you will begin to program and build neural pathways in your brain to drive that car. And it's the same thing with a state of being. What you think and how you feel becomes a state of being. So it becomes the same thing when you think a thought over and over and over and over again. It becomes a belief. You begin to believe it. And when you believe in something, it becomes programmed inside of your wirings, and you begin to think and behave and feel in accordance to that wiring in your brain. So if we want to have a change in our lives, if we want to rise above whatever that's happening in your life, the one way to start is to realize that you don't have to become, and you don't have to keep entertaining the sad feeling that you have. It doesn't mean you ignore it. It doesn't mean that you ridicule yourself for feeling bad. Of course, you can be angry for a little while. It doesn't mean also that you let the people who has done wrong to you walk away scot-free. You can still be very conscious and be very aware and take action in a very clear, conscious way. Okay, you can still do that in a very present way, rather than reacting like a hurt animal, because we or sometimes we just watch ourselves behaving in ways when we are hurt, we become unkind. I'm not excluded from that, and I see myself behaving in ways like an injured animal, and just the act of being aware of that makes a huge difference, because just by being aware of your actions and your behaviors helps you to sort of, hey, okay, I'm behaving in this way, I would prefer not to do this again. I want to choose a different action. I want to choose a different thought. I want to choose a different way of being. And the act of observing really does bring you miles. So a very simple way, something that you can do almost right away, is to start becoming more aware, more mindful of the thoughts that you have, your repetitive thoughts that you have in your head. Start being and tuning in to how you feel inside yourself, and that's the one way where when you start being in touch with your internal world, that is really one of the first steps that creates real changes, transformations, and shifts in your life. Let me know what you think in the comments below. My name is Jessica, and I am so glad I can share this with you today. I'll see you in the next video.